I want to give a shout out to the Iowa State Cyclones and specifically the EverGreenlee School of Journalism and Communication. They invited me out there a couple weeks ago to speak to their class because they have a new sports media major that they are starting off with. That school has 3 teams in the top 10. Football and both basketball teams are getting it done. And something I didn't learn until I got there. They've never had a 10-win season. That's unbelievable to me. Between Seneca Wallace and Brock Purdy, it's never happened. I hope it does this year.
Shout out, Jack Trice.
We'll see you Monday.
Hello, I'm Henry Gonzalez with EverGreenlee News. Today's show is We're Number One. This might be the best year to be a part of cyclone's nation. Not only are the teams winning, but with the new sports media major, it will allow students to create compelling stories about Iowa State athletics. Today, we'll talk with 3 groups that play a vital role in making cyclone's nation a special place to be in 2024 and beyond. There's an important layer to the pageantry of Iowa State athletics, the super support system of Iowa State, the We Will Collective, the cheer and dance team, and of course, the marching band. These groups work tirelessly and show their dedication and love for the Cyclones every game day. Coming up, we take a look into this group, into the work they put in that make Cyclone Nation so special.
Hello everybody, my name is Logan Clark with EverGreenlee News, and this is We're Number One. Today we have essentially the backbone of our Iowa State Cyclones. Would you guys please introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Crystal Bloom. I'm with the We Will Collective.
I'm Haley Kelly. I'm a part of the marching band.
I'm Jacob Nannon. I'm also a part of the marching band.
I'm Natalie Maxwell, and I am a second-year member of the Iowa State cheerleading.
All right, and I just want to say thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate it, and we're just going to keep it simple to start and get the blood flowing. So what's your guys' favorite memory as a Cyclone?
Well, my memories go back a lot further than theirs. So I graduated from Iowa State in 2008. So our sports teams weren't the greatest then, but I'm a lifelong fan. We've tailgated as a family for over 20 years. I have 2 older brothers that have went to Iowa State. So my favorite memory probably actually TCU game in 2019. I had my then, oh goodness, he was probably 10-month-old, and we stormed the field together. So he was in the my carrier. We stormed the field when we won the game. At that time, my husband was working for Iowa State doing pregame, postgame for Learfield on the radio. And so it was fun to have a memory. We have a fun picture of us standing on the field, pointing up to Dad in the press box on that game.
I would have to go with the TCU game last year, the Jack Trice Legacy game. We had a really cool show for the band, and we had Seneca Wallace back with us to do the run again, which was really cool. And also winning was just a really great way to end up the game, and it's just a really good experience.
I would have to go for a more band-specific one. It was our first No Case. If you don't know what that is, it's just kind of when we parade back from our practice field to the music hall, and it was just a really electric feeling. It was the first time our whole band really lined up, and we just marched back, and it was just a ton of fun.
Mine would have to be the Iowa State game this year. Getting chosen to cheer at Kinnick Stadium and beating Iowa like at their home field, especially coming from a family of Hawkeyes and having my dad and brother in the stands in their Iowa gear and getting to point to my uniform and be like, yeah, we won. That was like the best feeling ever.
Oh yeah, basically just one up in your family.
Yep. Yeah, we have a really good.
And since you guys kind of perform on game days, how does it feel to get to perform in such like big crowds?
Yeah, it's a little scary sometimes, especially like the first time stepping on the field, like seeing all those people. But there's something really gratifying about kind of seeing that the work that you put in over band camp, those long days, and practice every single day, like that's getting recognized, and it's really cool to have that impact on Cyclone Nation too.
I think it's a really exciting feeling. We do a lot of practice, a lot of work, and it's cool to see it pay off. I thought I'd be a lot more nervous than I was, but it's really easy to look up and be like, oh, there's a student staff, there's a drum major. I know them. And it's just kind of a lot more comfortable than I thought it would be. It's a ton of fun.
It's definitely a surreal experience. I remember my first pregame lining up like by the end zone with the band playing and just like looking around and just seeing like, so those aren't just colors, like those are people up there. And it's hard like to fathom the fact that there's like over 60,000 people. But I think just like looking next to you and seeing your teammates and kind of just knowing like, we're going to get through this together. Yeah, it's a little scary, but just like, it's truly so much fun. And it's just such an amazing.
I bet. And then the We Will Collective is a very big part here at Iowa State. How does it feel to get to be like a key role in that?
So I would say kind of the flip side of them, preparing for game day. The football team does the same thing. All of our sports team does. And I feel like kind of a team mom because I help them, prepare behind the scenes, going out in the community, doing work, interacting with youth, making a difference. So to see them during game day, it kind of is all the feels for me, just to know those people out on the field, to know that they're more than just the football player behind the helmet, things like that.
That's awesome. And then a lot of like watching your guys' routines and stuff, it's amazing. A lot goes into that. What does like a typical game day look for all of you?
It's a little different depending on if you are a wind in the band or a drumline color guard or like a drum major on student staff. So I luckily got the opportunity to be on student staff this year. So I have a couple more responsibilities on game day itself. I don't have to memorize any drill because I don't march during the games, but we kind of handle the logistics and more of the event management stuff behind that. So we will get to, our call time is like 7 hours before kick. So there's a lot to do. We make sure that the band has everything that they need and that our director has everything they need while we're moving our equipment from Berg in the morning when we have rehearsal to step show here at the Alumni Center, and then everything into the game. And then we also conduct during the game in the stands, and then we help during halftime as well. And then after the game, we clean up the stands, and then we have to take all of our equipment to music hall, back to the communications building where we store some stuff. So it can be long days, but we have a really great team to work with, and the band is amazing. So it's really fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, just like she said, it's a ton of fun. Obviously, I have a little bit of a different schedule because I'm in the band and not like a student staff member. I'm a woodwind marching. Our call time is a little bit later than theirs. It's usually about 6 hours before. And we go to Bergstrom, always eat breakfast first, very important. You go to Bergstrom, rehearse, and then we have a step show. We walk on over to the stadium, and we just kind of sit in the stands, play our music, hop on the field for halftime, and then go back, keep playing, and then we get to head home a little bit earlier than they do, but it's always just so fun.
So we have to be at Jack Trice 4 hours before kickoff. We usually are getting up pretty early, like to do our hair, do our makeup, get all pretty before the game. And then we usually walk over to the stadium, and then we do our warm-up on the field when the stadium's completely empty. No one's in there except for us, which is like just really cool because it's like it's empty, and then a couple hours later it's like full. And so then we do our warm-up, get all of our stunts and pyramids ready for when we do them during timeouts. And then we do our spirit walk with the band, and we welcome the football team in. And then after that, we are free to go to tailgates, kind of interact with fans, see our families, and then we usually have to be back to the field usually an hour before kickoff, so then we can like line up for pregame and then cheer the game. So it is very long days, usually like 7-hour days, but it's so much fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So you guys seem to have your hands full. And then you said earlier the We Will Collective sets up a tailgate before the game. Like how does that work, and what goes into that?
So there's a couple different ways. We have athletes from other, maybe not the football team, maybe the basketball team, they're visiting donor or fan tailgates. So we're setting that up. They may be visiting with sponsors. So sometimes we have great sponsors like Channel C that they do a tailgate with them. And then we also have our personal tailgate. So we have 2 small boys. We actually set up in the RV lot, but we set up a We Will tailgate. So we've got tents that we set up chairs. We organize with our partners at Westo Brewing that brews our Ames Lager. We also partner with Iowa Distilling. And then we also invite any other partners that we have to come, give them a space to talk about their products and how they give back to the We Will Collective. So we usually start, for instance, if game days, at 7 o'clock, I'm usually out there setting up the tents and such early in the morning. And then just really mingling with people, taking donations, just really spreading the word. We have lots of people that come by, take pictures. We also have a new giant bobblehead that is about this tall. It's about 4.5 feet tall. It's actually of my husband, which is really awkward, but people come and they take pictures like he's a statue or something. But that's a fun addition, just really building that community to support the athletes and talk about what we do.
Well, I know where I'm going next game
That's
day.
right. Come on over.
Well, that's all the time we have today. I just want to thank you guys for coming on our show. And after, we'll cut to a quick break, and after that, we get to see the media aspect of our Iowa State Cyclones. Thank you.
At Iowa State, innovation is dynamic. It's collaborative. It's inviting ideas from all corners and working across disciplines. Because we've learned when ideas are shared, we all benefit. Innovate at Iowa State.
The team and supporting cast all play a crucial role in the spirit of Iowa State athletics. But what about behind the scenes? Coming up, Kylie Allen discusses with members of the media and how they play a crucial role in delivering news across different mediums to fans of Cyclone Nation.
While the atmosphere at a Cyclone sporting event is second to none, not every fan that bleeds Cardinal and Gold is able to make it to Ames for his or her favorite sporting event. With me are three professionals who bring the event to fans outside of Ames. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Jamie Steyer Johnson, and I broadcast Iowa State women's basketball on the radio.
I'm Xander White. I'm a sports reporter with the Iowa State Daily.
I'm Justin Wolber. I'm with Cyclones TV. We do the in-house presentation as well as the ESPN Plus broadcast.
Perfect. So you all work in a different form of media per se. You want to walk me through, starting with you, Jamie, what your game day looks like?
Yeah, so I usually am starting out, I will talk to my mother. She has been on staff for the women's basketball team for over 20 years now. So I get a little bit of a scouting report from her at some point in the day. A lot of times that's kind of prior to the game, so that'll be even in the days leading up to it. And then the actual game, I will wake up, a lot of the time I am kind of killing time during the day until I'm driving to Ames. I live near Des Moines. So I'll watch a little bit of film, maybe brush up on some notes, get whatever the updated statistics are for the team that Iowa State's facing, for Iowa State as well. The SIDs are great about getting us notes, so I don't have to find all of it myself. And then I need to be at Hilton about at least an hour before game time. We do a half-hour pregame show, and so sometimes a little bit more than an hour, but I'll make sure I have some sort of caffeine, some coffee, some Diet Coke, roll up, and then, touch base with whoever's around there. Obviously, I grew up here around the fans, around the people, so just chat a little bit, and then we're on the air a half hour before.
Yeah, so I'm still a student here, so my day-to-day kind of looks the same as a lot of students. I wake up, go to my 8:30 a.m. class, depending on the day of the week, get through that, go home, have some food, talk to my parents back home, and make my way over to Hilton. I'll get my, laptop set up, connect with the SIDs that are there for whether it be wrestling, basketball, whatever sport's going on that night, and then typically, I like to get, just like Jamie, I like to get notes together. Our SIDs are great about getting that stuff kind of set up. So, and then, yeah, it's pretty much showtime. I take notes during the game, kind of just to get rolling, and then press conferences after the events, talk to coaches, players, and then I think usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours after, my stories are up and ready to go.
Yeah, on the broadcast side of things, throughout the day, it's a lot of gathering up the elements that we're going to use throughout the broadcast. So Throughout the week leading up to the broadcast, we'll have students put together highlight packages of who our featured players are going to be. Our producer meets with the coaches as well as with our play-by-play and color commentators to make sure that they're all on the same page, that they can have a little conversation, get to know each other, get a little background ahead of time. And then about 3 hours before tip-off or kickoff, whatever the game might be, our production team starts getting together. We go through all of our graphics, make sure there's no spelling errors, that we've got appropriate logos, all that important stuff. 2 hours before the rest of our crew starts showing up, we build up our cameras, we start doing signal checks. We call into ESPN streaming services, make sure that they're seeing our connections, that sound and everything is going through the way it's supposed to go. About an hour out, we do a rehearsal of what our open's going to look like. So right when we come on air, make sure that we get off to a good start. That's one of the few scripted areas that we have in a broadcast, so that's something we can really control. We do a tech rehearsal of that, and then we kind of lay out for a few minutes before the game gets going.
Very good. So you guys are using some lingo, right, from the media business a little bit. Go ahead and help me out. I believe Xander and Jamie, you used an acronym SID, is that right? Would you go ahead and explain to us what that is?
Yes, that's a sports information director. So that's someone who works with usually a group of teams, depending on what the season is. They usually, ideally, have like one team at a time. There's crossover, and then depending on how big a school is, they may have more or fewer actual directors. But so they're the people who are sitting in their office and they're compiling notes on basically anything that a media member could possibly need to know about their team. And so that's what's distributed to if you have national media coming in, to opposing teams, and then of course to us that are covering the teams frequently. So we have a little more familiarity, but it gives you records from the team, individual records. So like for instance, with women's basketball, if someone is on their 20th point of the night, I can just quickly check into our notes and see, oh, well, her career high is 24. So I know if she gets to 25, we're going to mention that on the broadcast. And so it just makes our lives a lot easier. We don't have to spend all the time looking it up ourselves.
That's got to be a giant help. So I know that when we're actually inside of Hilton Coliseum or inside of Jack Trice, the energy and that feeling, right, you can feel it like in your soul almost. And so your goal per se is to bring that to your audience. What are the important elements that you make sure to kind of tie into your broadcast or into your story to make sure that your audience really feels that?
Yeah, I am pretty well known at this point for bringing a lot of emotion to a broadcast, perhaps to a fault, at least when I started, but I have kind of embraced it. I'm an emotional person. I've cried on air more times than I can count on one hand. To be fair, this is my 6th year, but it's something that means a lot to me. I know the program very well. I know the team very well. Obviously, I have personal ties, and so I'm able to really bring the personal connection where I know the players as people, and I can kind of share that with the fans. Our fans are extremely invested. They care a lot. And that's why we have such a terrific fan base. That's why we're so well attended, because they're able to build that relationship. And then I have almost my entire life of experience in the program to draw on, even from before I was on air. And so I can say, hey, you know, this player kind of reminds me of this person that played back in 2004. And since we have such a long history and we have such invested fans, they really enjoy that I'm able to kind of bring that added perspective.
Yeah, it's a little bit tougher, I would say, on the written piece when you're composing articles, but you know, we have great photographers who bring in images, and we bring interviews. That's probably the biggest piece of, you know, from press conferences. Fans don't a lot of times get to directly talk to players, so getting the player perspective on an event is super important in some of those aspects.
And being a visual medium, you know, we kind of get the advantage here of being able to showcase some of the environment, you know, Hilton, using some of the tricks like during gameplay, maybe you start a little wider so you really get that atmosphere in there. You see the fans on their feet, you see people clapping and really getting into it. So you can kind of use these little tricks, or telling your play-by-play to, you know, lay out here for a second, don't talk, just let the crowd do the talking for a little bit. And maybe you'll have an entire play happen where nothing's said. You just kind of soak up that atmosphere, and then really mixing in the crowd shots, kind of partnering with the team that's doing the video board production to be able to trade shots back and forth, so that we really get that crowd feel as well as, you know, what's going on the court.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This has been Kylie Allen with EverGreenlee News. Our stories stay fresh for you.
When the pandemic arrived, time stood still. But the innovators at Iowa State didn't. Their drive went into overdrive, developing models that track and forecast the virus, making data more accessible to scientists and doctors worldwide, collaborating to expand testing capacity for faster results, exploring a viral testing platform as portable as your phone. This is what a changing world needs. Innovation in overdrive.
Hello everyone, my name is Blake Peterson and you're watching EverGreenlee News. We are number one. With me here are a few Cyclone superfans. If you want to go down the line and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Nick Menson, a freshman here at Iowa State who is majoring in the new sports media and communication major. I'm very excited to be doing so.
I'm Greta Zupke. I'm a second-year psychology student.
I'm cyclONE, and I am studying advertising.
So we'll get started with, how'd you guys get here? It's like, what brought you to the Iowa State fandom?
So starting in like high school, I knew I was coming to Iowa State for college, although I originally thought it was like civil engineering, but then I heard about the new major and I was like, oh my gosh, I could have such a fun time career-wise with this. I knew Iowa State being in my home state, like this just seemed like the right fit for me. And being in a house that grown up black and gold, I was like, no, I want to get away from this. Be around with my brother and a great fan base.
Yeah, my decision to come here was a little last minute. I'm from Minnesota, so I was planning on going to college in Minnesota, but I looked into Iowa State's psychology program and I toured, loved the energy here, and then I went to a sports game, and it was just, I had to come here.
Growing up, we were in a black and gold household. And then I toured here in middle school when family members getting their PhD. Fell in love with the place. Toured here officially. Fell in love with the atmosphere and just went from there.
So was there anything like with the black and gold that tried to sway your decision like during that time?
So I guess like my junior year in high school, I actually did end up going to an Iowa game last minute because a family member had 2 tickets that, you know, she wasn't able to go through, so she gave them to me and my dad. So like,
but did you like it though?
I mean, it wasn't bad, but I'd also went to an Iowa State game when I was a 7th grader, my first one ever, and I found that time a lot more fun. And then I continued to do so. Actually, my senior year in high school, I came to 3 home night games here at Jack Trice Stadium, and they were a heck of fun.
Did you guys say the same?
I will say Kinnick's loud, but doesn't compare to the atmosphere that Iowa State brings in.
I've never been to Iowa City. I was raised in a Gopher household, so similar colors, just different states.
So I kind of want to move on to memorable moments. Do you guys have memorable moments that kind of stands out to you guys like throughout your time as being a fan of Iowa State? We'll start with Cy Mando.
Yeah, it was when Breece Hall tied the NCAA rushing touchdown record. I mean, that was amazing. I remember being in the stands. That was, I think, one of my first like real crazy moments as an Iowa State fan. Actually being in the stadium, experiencing that atmosphere, and I just was in awe.
I would say my first basketball game last year, it was against Texas Tech, and the energy in Hilton was crazy. There was so much smack talk coming from the student section, and it just made it so much better.
I think it's got to be our home game that we had recently with UCF. I remember just like going in the 4th quarter, having Iowa State trailing most of the game. It seemed like we were almost running out of hope. And then we got the ball back late in the fourth quarter, down by less than a touchdown, and see Rocco Beck come in clutch, driving Iowa State's offense all the way down the field so they could eventually rush in a touchdown to take the lead. Like, there was just such an emotional change there that I am certainly not going to forget in even the far future.
So what was the student section like during that particular moment?
They were definitely celebrating, I can tell you that. How they were celebrating wasn't necessarily the most approved of, as you know, there were water bottles and even fireball and Tito shooters that were being thrown around. There were some students who did, take one or two of them, and
it was just a dark day for the student section.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was disappointed that day, but that's one of those days that you can truly feel the passion that this student section has for the team. But I would say do it differently.
So I got to point out a crazy moment that I heard from last year. So I heard that a couple of you guys were a part of this. So there was like a camp out for a Kansas basketball game. Simando, do you want to dive into that?
It was cold, but yeah, I believe it was a week that we camped out, taking shifts, and the dedication that these students had just for one game is another reason why I just love to see the student section, and why I can't recommend enough that students come to Iowa State just to experience this.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys for coming on this show. Thank you guys for sitting down with me. I'm Blake Peterson, and you're watching EverGreenlee News, where our stories stay fresh for you.
Thank you, Blake. That's all the time we have for today. We've talked with members of the band and cheer team and the We Will Collective, members of the media, and of course, our dedicated fans. I'm Henry Gonzalez, and this has been EverGreenlee News, where our stories stay fresh for you. The team and supporting cast all encompass the true spirit of cyclONE Nation. But what about behind the scenes? Coming up, we take a look at members of the media that help deliver. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You could try just being on the. We could go on the landing, so maybe we could get that.
A little closer. Have some fun. Do a little kind of. Hold up. Hold up.